Flight boss, bitch. For sure. You're not listening to the Mind of Terry Smell. I'm the Archangel Uriel, and I'm here to carry out God duties and motherfucking responsibilities. And right now I want to break down the esoteric versus the exoteric of apologetics and the things that theologians use to defend their faith. Now I want to make one disclaimer before we get into this video. That wasn't it. But here's a disclaimer, right? If you are a person that's just, you just live your life, you grew up in a certain living conditions under groupings of people, and y'all utilize this Bible for your spiritual path and things of that nature, or whatever religion that you cling on to, what I'm going to tell you is this video is not for you, because you don't care about preaching. You don't care about trying to redirect someone's mind state into your worldview and things of that nature. You're doing this for your own spiritual sake. So for the most part, this video is not for people like you. You see what I'm saying? You need to stay on that path. Everybody need a ladder or something to hold on to get to the next road or the next path into their life. And for the most part, the Bible is very helpful for things like that. You see what I'm saying? So I'll never steer nobody away from something that helped them spiritually. Now that the disclaimer is out the way, let's get into apologetics and theologians and the esoteric and the exoteric energy that's going on behind this. So we're going to start off with the exoteric, the EXO, what's common knowledge for everyone to understand about apologetics, or a theological point of view on how they attack their religion or denomination, right? Now the exoteric is common knowledge. You're going to come across cosmological arguments. You're going to come across all kind of concepts and mind states and worldviews in order to redirect how you see reality, and that it'll suit your faith in some way, shape, or form. And then faith is based on a certain curriculum. For an example, let's talk about Christian. One of the Christian faith is Jesus rose from the dead. So if you want to get into apologetics to be a theologian and preach these things, for the most part, you want to go to school and learn the best arguments that could defend that kind of concept and things of that nature. So for the most part, in a nutshell, that'll be the exoteric understanding of what it means to be a theologian utilizing apologetics. Now we're going to get into the esoteric energy, because you need to know that this is a witchcraft practice, mind scheme, in a reverse psychology kind of way that have been played on individuals who serve the highest of something. And when we want to correlate, what's one of the negative things that we're trying to get away from is our desires. So when we talk about nature is everything that's derived out of our lower animalistic natures. So a lot of times indulging too much into nature can show us a catastrophic moment. And we have a lot of different natures here, almost to the point that you can have too many goddamn kids. But that's another video. So like I'm saying, once we start to understand yin and yang, the right and left, the masculine, the feminine, we start to understand that these are things that's correlating with desires. Masculine is something that's externalized, and then the feminine is something that the externalization goes into to create a container, and therefore we're starting to condense and shape and mold. But before we even get into that, so once you have this kind of enlightenment, understanding, then you're able to write books and geometric and mathematically put them out into positions based upon your meanings and outlining stars and different alignments and pentagons throughout the Bible, while still utilizing words and anthropomorphizing things. So when we start to get into the esoteric, what's not common knowledge, what a person's supposed to understand for themselves before they create an interpretation. Now, here's the thing when we talk about esoteric. The God concept, God is just another word like a container. When we create a word, a frequency, we put a vibration behind it. And based upon how many vibrations, how many feelings, how many reactions you can have towards that one word, that'll let you know that frequency is playing out as a big container that can hold a lot of esoteric waters. That's what I like to call it, but vibrations. So if we could come up with a concept that means all possibilities, all things, then we could come up with words. Yahweh, Yahweh, whatever, Jehovah, Yahweh, God. And right now we got what the scientists want to present to y'all as far as terms like universe and their concept of space. So all of these are just different words to understand the concept of all things, all possibilities. A place where all possibilities could be had, aka all forms of thoughts, all forms of feelings could be had, right? Now, here's the thing. The esoteric energy behind God, and then the meaning that have been placed on y'all that gets into the witchcraft that I be talking about, is this. When you start to deify that, when you start to anthropomorphize that. See, a regular Protestant or a theologian may get into certain things like That's not the right God. That's not the right God, because those gods don't match the concept of omnipresent or all-knowing or something that's representing all possibilities. But what a theologian fail to realize is you're in a concept of deifying that. It's just you take it a step further. You're not just deifying lesser lords, lesser lights that's lower down. You're deifying the most high that you can ever deify. So when we start to get into all possibilities, or the term God, you guys deify it. That's why you can't leave the concept of calling in a man or a woman, where man is just another terminology for the external version of light that can be pushed out like a thought and idea. And woman is the esoteric understanding of feminine energy and things that can be received on an esoteric level. So once we start to talk about inner lights, not external lights, then you have to start understanding, okay, where are you getting at? So the moment you start to say God, and then you anthropomorphify it, or you deify it, you call God a man, or you say God can't do this. Like you end up utilizing your own brain, and you start giving God traits. So you're utilizing your own ability to have all possibilities, and you are attaching it to something that someone have created to you as far as that, God. And then you're deifying it. So you're doing the highest version of deifying. You're doing the highest version of anthropomorphizing, where you're actually taking a concept that just means all possibilities, and now you're giving it traits, you're giving it a title. So here's the thing. On an esoteric level, here's how they reverse psychology and practice old witchcraft on theologians, right? And remix it in the exoteric energy, where now, here's the thing, that theologians and preachers may not know what they're doing. You're actually playing out the example on what it means to be the devil, or what it means to be a Lucifer. The moment you take the concept of all possibilities, God, omnipresent, which that's just what it is a title, right? And the moment that you anthropomorphize it, right, you end up playing out the highest desire. Because it's always going to lead into something that you desire. Whether you desire to go to heaven, you desire other people to go to hell, you're probably in a fear concept, and things of that nature. Or you're in a circumstance, in a situation where you're always going to come to the conclusion where you don't know, because you're placing all your eggs in a basket that's not even technically how you're looking at it. It ain't what you looking at, it's how you look at it. It ain't what you understanding, it's how you understand it. You see what I'm saying? So every time you hear somebody say, God wants this or God needs that, for the most part, basically what you are doing is you are anthropomorphizing a concept that represent all possibilities. And you're arguing with people who's clinging on to religions or concepts that don't have all possibilities as a form of an argument. So now you're thinking you're a theologian or you're into apologetics because you think you could come up with an argument that represent all possibilities better than someone else who's placing something like Zeus or Apollo or something like that. Not knowing that you're actually worshiping the same thing, but you are playing out the example of being a devil or the Lucifer because you're taking it to the highest degree. You can't even point to your desire. You have took all possibilities and made that an all desire. So you have the highest desire. You worship the most high Allah. You worship the highest desire. You worship. So when you play that out in the world, when you go out and defend your faith or defend your apologetics, basically what you are doing is you are defending the devil. You are defending the light. AKA your spirit has got lost in light, logic, love, linguistics, lacnitude, language, lords, Lord down, lesser than. So for the most part, this is the energy you portray. You portray being lesser than. You portray being weak. You portray being in fear. You portray being a victim. You portray energy thinking that something else greater than you placed you here. You portray having the most high desire. You portray being lost into the light. So then when we get into concepts of Holy Ghost or he is the light, replace he with light. Light is the light. So if it's telling you in these books, he is the light, you're supposed to keep that into your mind. Every time you hear he, him, Elohim, or he, It's talking about a concept of light. So it's saying he is the light. So we have different versions of masculine versions. We call it boys. We call it mans. Man will be a little bigger. You know what I'm saying? Boy will be a little smaller. But for the most part, we're understanding that these are esoteric energies. Titles that we was naming. So if you read a book, right, this is why it's going to be slightly different than Hebrew than if you get the King James and Greekified energy. Because when they're talking about it, if you get Greeked out, right, you might think it's talking about it in the way how we're explaining language now, where how they was talking about it back then, they wasn't making sentences. They was talking about waves of directions and ways to move. So if I'm going to say he, her, he is light, her is light that's curved. So that becomes round. So anything that you have to go around, develop feelings and emotions or the feminine energy, or it could create a container for the second comings, the second many versions of light to go into to manifest what we call densities and realms of realities and particles and all things from a periodic table and things of that nature, right? So we understand that this is the concept of teamwork makes the dream work. So once you understand that from an esoteric level, once you start to get back into apologetics, you start to understand that you're being indoctrinated to utilize words to defend the devil, aka a desire. That's it. That's all. But your desire, you done took it up a notch. You didn't start worshiping the highest desire to the point that you worship desires. You shouldn't even worship that. But at the end, when you got your title, God, which is just another title for all possibilities, right? Teamwork makes the dream work. We're supposed to fulfill that. But instead of fulfilling that, you guys anthropomorphize that and deify it as if it's a concept or a deity on its own. So you guys is basically saying all possibilities is a deity on its own. Omnipresence is a deity on its own. All knowing is a deity on its own. That's basically what you're doing. So when you say God is something greater than you, I would love to say God exists, because all possibilities do exist. But the moment you tell an apologetics or a theologian person that, here's where this was going to happen. You're going to get lost into definitions, right? So when we start defining things, the devil is in the details. So once you start to look at and start to determine, and once we start to get into words and denominations, for the most part, that is a living example on what it means to be lost in the light or in the word. So you worship the word, but you know the word became flesh, but you don't worship the flesh. So you don't understand it from an esoteric level that is talking about light. And the word was created with the vibration. So when you look into your Bibles and disregard your own emotion and look at the words and then cast stones on women and females saying that they can't preach, you need to know that you are making everything part of the Lucifer program. You're making everything flesh, where men and women is not talking about male and females. This is why you don't go out saying is an animal or a dog is a real man or she's a real female. Or she's a real woman. You say, oh, it's male or female. You don't go around saying, is that bug, if it's a male, is it a real man? And you don't go around saying, is that bug, is it a real woman? You figure out is this a male or female, and you determine off of that. So here's the thing. A religious Protestant that got indoctrinated with their theological practices based upon using apologetics, they can't even get past that concept of man and woman. So this is why they don't even understand why they call God man, where their God man, because they worship thought forms. That's what they do. They worship the masculine thought that came from someone else's that actually walked the earth. Otherwise, it wouldn't be written down. But here's the thing, right? And that's another reason why everybody could connect with it also, because this is something that we all have esoteric access to. So for the most part, this is why they can't get past calling their God a man, and then they probably going to come up with some type of schooling or doctrination or apologetic in order to rock people to sleep who don't know how to make that make sense in some type of way and say God was a man. So they come up with things like federal headship, hypostatic union, terms that's not in the Bible, but you have to go use left brain logic, language, the demonic energy. You have to disregard yourself and put yourself in a sunken place and replace somebody else's words with their meanings behind it, with their emotions behind it, just to defend your faith. So they already let you know that you are the demon. You are the devil. If you are a preacher who believe in Jesus, you are a searcher for demons. So, it is not out of the lens to make somebody look at you like, okay, you just a person who believe in a book from an author who believe in witchcraft which was what? King James and shit. You know what I'm saying? But we could go a little deeper than that. But I ain't gonna make this video too long. I just want to scratch it on the surface level because, you know, we in the year 8 right now, and we don't really have time for spirits and bodies to continuously lead spirits to lostness. You know what I'm saying? And we all need to understand our own capabilities and incapabilities in the real actual way, not in a way that you could get lost by an apologetic argument trying to say that, oh, loving yourself is part of the devil. They don't even know what they're saying when they even put them sentences together. They don't even know what they're talking about, basically. It's basically Babylon out of their mouth. They just speak babble. It's pure gibberish. The moment they say he is the light and he's coming he's coming to bring a new covenant and it's for this generation. They don't even know what they just said when they seen that. They could be basically describing a season, but since they anthropomorphize on the highest level, they end up thinking that it's an actual deity coming to bring some type of demonic pain and suffering on motherfuckers who don't believe in that, at the end of the day, external masculine thought form. So that's what they worship. An external thought form that a weak mental needing crutch spirit in a body may have to cling on to in order to feel secure in their life based upon all the trial tribulations that they feel like their own spirit can't take care of. So you're creating your own heaven and hell. But when you're creating someone else's hell and calling it heaven, you're going there with a group of others. So it creates a religion. I love y'all. Flight bus, bitch, you know, for sure.